The morning sunlight streamed gently through the lush green trees, casting shimmering reflections onto the ivory facade of a grand mansion nestled quietly in a peaceful neighborhood. Everything here radiated elegance and order, from the spotless stone path to the neatly trimmed bushes on either side. Leah stood still before the tall iron gate, her hand gently tightening around the strap of her travel bag. A swirl of emotions rose within her: nervousness, fear, but above all, gratitude. After days of joblessness and uncertainty, she finally had a place where she could start again. An acquaintance had recommended her for a full-time housekeeping position at the home of Mrs. Elena, a successful woman known in the real estate industry. It wasn't a glamorous job, but to Leah, it carried hope. As she stepped inside, it felt like entering a different world. High ceilings, white curtains swaying gently, sunlight flooding every corner and glinting off polished wooden floors. She had to remind herself not to get distracted. "You'll be the only one taking care of this house," Mrs. Elena said kindly, "but you don't need to clean everything every day. Just keep things tidy and neat. Take your time. Soon you'll know every corner by heart." Leah nodded and smiled. Deep inside, she made a quiet promise to herself. "This time, I won't let this chance slip away." Right after Leah had finished organizing her belongings in the modest staff room, Mrs. Elena invited her to meet the rest of the family. They walked through the long hallway, past the luxurious living room, and stopped in the spacious, modern kitchen, where two men were seated, one older and the other young. "Leah, this is my husband, Mr. Marcus, and this is our son, Arkin," said Mrs. Elena. "Leah will be in charge of the housework starting today." "Good afternoon, sir." "Hello." Leah bowed politely. Mr. Marcus offered her a kind smile, but Arkin's eyes stayed cold and unreadable. "Have you memorized every corner of the house yet?" Arkin asked, his voice calm but cutting. "Not yet, but I'll do my best to learn quickly." "No need to try too hard. Just remember not to go into my room." Leah glanced up, stunned by his rude tone. She was about to respond, but Mrs. Elena quickly stepped in. "Arkin, don't talk like that. Leah just arrived." "Whatever," he muttered, and stood up to leave. Leah stood still. She hadn't expected the only son in such a refined home to be so abrasive. Still, she bowed again before quietly returning to her room. When she entered the room, Leah began unpacking her belongings. The room was quite spacious and fully furnished. "It's even bigger than my old apartment," she thought to herself. Her excitement was suddenly interrupted by a loud knock on the door. Arkin was standing outside. "What do you need?" Leah asked. "Mom told me to come and apologize for earlier," Arkin replied. "Apologize? With that attitude? You even looked annoyed." "If you're not going to accept it, then forget it," Arkin said, turning to leave. Leah slammed the door shut, trying to calm herself down. She knew she shouldn't lose her temper with the landlord's son, but she couldn't control her anger. Still, a strange feeling was rising inside her, especially when she recalled Arkin's face. "Leah, focus on your work," she told herself, and went back to organizing. Even though she kept herself busy, Arkin's image wouldn't leave her mind. She tried her best to push it away. The first few days working in the mansion were tense for Leah. She kept her head down, working diligently and avoiding Arkin as much as possible. Their conversations were limited to necessity, and Arkin remained distant, occasionally glancing at her, then quickly looking away as if she didn't exist. But everything began to shift after a single, unexpected moment. That afternoon, Leah was cleaning the library when she accidentally knocked over a stack of books. Arkin walked in just as it happened. She dropped to the floor to pick them up, flustered, but he silently knelt beside her to help. It was the first time he hadn't snapped at her. "Be more careful next time," he said. His voice no longer had its sharp edge. "Thank you, and I'm sorry," Leah replied softly, surprised he hadn't scolded her. After that, Arkin began showing up wherever Leah happened to be, whether in the kitchen, the garden, or even along the hallway. He said little, but his gaze had softened. Leah sensed a quiet kind of attention she couldn't explain. One rainy afternoon, while she was hanging laundry under the awning, Arkin appeared with a coat. "It's cold, you'll get sick." She hesitated, then took it. "Thank you. I didn't think you noticed." "I'm not blind, Leah," he replied, then quickly turned away. Her heart skipped a beat. That name. He had said it gently, as if she held someplace in his world. From a distance, something was quietly pulling them closer, even if neither dared to admit it yet. After finishing preparing dinner, Leah said, "I'm going to take a walk. I'll come back to do the dishes once you're done eating." "No need, Aija," Marcus replied. "Come and eat with us." "It's okay." "Really? I'd feel a bit shy." "Don't be shy, Leah. In this house, you're already part of the family." Julia smiled warmly. Leah couldn't refuse any longer, so she sat down. Thankfully, she was seated far from Arkin. Despite her effort to keep her distance, Arkin kept sneaking glances at her. Once the couple stood up and left the table, he turned to her and said, "I don't like the way you talk to me." Leah replied without hesitation, "Well, I don't like the way you treat me. If you show me respect, I'll return the courtesy. I'm not afraid of you." Arkin stared at her intently. "You're really different from anyone I've ever met. You intrigue me." Leah frowned. "Don't say that. I'm not some game." "I'm serious," Arkin said, stepping closer. Leah immediately stood up. "Stay away from me. I'm not afraid to kick you where it hurts." Arkin laughed. "Really? You'd kick me there? Then how would we have kids?" "What?" Leah gasped. "Who said anything about us having kids?" Arkin smirked and moved even closer. Leah kept backing away until her back hit the wall. She swallowed hard, trying to stay composed. "I told you I like you. Why won't you believe me? This can't be real. It's only been a few weeks. No one falls in love that fast. Then what do I have to do to prove it?" "Nothing, just leave me alone. I came here to work, not to fall in love." "I'm serious, Leah. I can't stop thinking about you." Leah breathed heavily, trying to stay calm, but when Arkin gently brushed her cheek with his hand, her eyes fluttered closed. That simple touch made her heart tremble. She knew she was slowly getting swept up in the emotion, and that terrified her. Though Leah tried to deny it, she couldn't lie to herself. Arkin was slowly making his way into her heart, and that was what scared her the most. She knew this shouldn't be happening, but when Arkin whispered, "You're the only one who drives me crazy like this," Leah stood still, her heart in turmoil. "I know everything is happening too fast," Arkin said softly, "but from the first moment I saw you, I felt something special, and I don't want to waste this chance." Leah shook her head. "This isn't right, Arkin. You're the landlord's son. I'm just a housemaid. This relationship will only cause trouble for both of us." "I don't care," Arkin replied. "I want you. Only you." Then he gently reached for Leah's cheek. She closed her eyes, unable to stop the emotions flooding her. No matter how much she tried to keep her distance, she couldn't resist the way Arkin looked at her, so intense and full of determination. Just as she was about to step back, Arkin suddenly pulled her into a kiss. At first, Leah froze in shock, but only moments later, she softened, responding slowly, cautiously, then passionately. Arkin lifted her into his arms and she wrapped her legs around his waist. In the whirlwind of surprise and emotion, Leah didn't know whether to resist or surrender. In that instant, everything else vanished. There was only the two of them and feelings too deep to name. As they broke the kiss, Leah whispered, "This isn't right." "What's not right?" Arkin held her tighter. "If we both love each other, then nothing about it is wrong. What about your parents? What about my job?" "Don't worry," Arkin reassured her. "We'll keep it secret for now. When the time is right, I'll tell them everything." "I'm scared." "Don't be, Leah. I'm here. I love you." Those words felt like a warm blanket over Leah's heart. She didn't know what awaited them in the future, but she knew she was in love with Arkin, and even if everything felt wrong, the feeling itself was real. Though Leah didn't want to admit it, she knew her heart had never been the same since Arkin entered her life. Their relationship had blossomed in silence through stolen glances, quiet moments, and fleeting seconds when no one else was around. At first, everything was hesitant, a brief brush of the hand, a shy smile. Then came the awkward hugs in the dark, but as time passed, the feelings grew deeper, stronger, and riskier. Arkin and Leah were in love, quietly but passionately. They kept it hidden from Elena and Marcus, the two people Leah deeply respected. She didn't want to lose her job, nor did she want to disappoint them, but loving Arkin felt like an unavoidable fate. However, when Leah began to feel dizzy and nauseous every morning, she knew something was changing. She had her suspicions, and one day she decided to see a doctor. "Leah," the doctor gently placed a report on the table. "You're pregnant. About 3 weeks along." The air seemed to freeze. Leah stared at the test resting on the table. 2 red lines, clear as day. A warmth spread through her chest, followed by a crashing wave of fear. She was carrying Arkin's child. On the way home, her thoughts spiraled. She knew Arkin cared for her. His eyes had softened, his presence had changed. But was that enough? Enough to stand against family, status, and expectations? She remembered his quiet glances, the way he called her name, the soft concern in his voice. But now, it all seemed so far away. Back at the mansion, Leah sat down to write a letter. Her hands trembled, but every word she wrote was filled with heavy resolve. "I'm sorry, Arkin. I love you more than words can say, but I'm terrified. I'm carrying our child, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to stand against a world that doesn't want us together." She left at twilight, carrying a small suitcase and a tiny life growing quietly inside her. The atmosphere inside the mansion shifted the moment Leah left. Every room felt colder, quieter. Arkin sensed it deeply, though no one spoke of it. He searched every corner, questioned the remaining staff, but no one knew where she had gone. Until he entered the small room Leah used to stay in, now oddly empty and perfectly neat. On the bedside table lay a small piece of paper, neatly folded. He picked it up, opened it, and felt his chest tighten. "I'm sorry, Arkin, I have to leave." Just a few words, yet they crushed him. He dropped into the nearest chair, head bowed, speechless. At that moment, his mother's voice echoed from the dining room. "Arkin, come, your father and I have something important to discuss." He walked in, expression frozen. "You'll be getting engaged to Camille," Mr. Marcus said firmly. "Her family is a major partner. This marriage will save the company." "I don't agree," Arkin replied without hesitation. "It's not about your agreement," his father snapped. "It's about responsibility." Arkin clenched his fists. His heart was in chaos. He had just lost Leah, and now he was being forced to marry someone he didn't love. That evening, during a formal dinner with Camille's family, the room felt suffocating and fake. Camille flirted, touched his arm, smiled too sweetly. Arkin stood abruptly, said nothing, and left. He didn't care who saw. Didn't care what was whispered. The only thing he cared about was finding the girl who had taken his heart with her when she walked away. For days after, Arkin was like a man possessed. He skipped meetings, ignored every call from Camille and her family. Only one thought remained in his mind: find Leah. He searched the entire city, bus stations, parks, even small pharmacies he thought she might visit. Night after night, he couldn't sleep. The emptiness inside him couldn't be filled by anything but seeing her again. And then, on a rainy afternoon, fate finally gave in. He saw her in a small cafe near the train station, standing behind the counter in a beige apron. She looked tired, her eyes sunken, but it was still Leah, the girl who made his heart forget how to beat. "Leah," he whispered, barely believing what he saw. She turned. Her eyes widened. "Arkin?" He stepped forward. Every emotion he'd buried came pouring out. "I looked everywhere for you. I couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe. You left without a word. You left me in an empty shell." Leah lowered her gaze. "I thought, if I left, it would be easier. For you." for your family. Easier? You took my heart with you, Leah. You didn't forget me easily either, did you? Tears welled in her eyes. I'm pregnant, Arkin. He paused, just for a moment, then stepped closer, gently taking her hand. I know, I found your letter, and I don't care about anything else. You're my home, Leah, and I'm never letting you go again. Leah's tears fell silently. After so many days of holding it all in, she finally allowed herself to be vulnerable. Aren't you angry that I left? She asked. Arkin shook his head and pulled her into his arms. I'm only angry at myself for not being able to make you stay. She held him tightly, as if letting go would cause everything to disappear like a dream. A few days later, Arkin decided to bring Leah back to the mansion. There was no reason to keep running. They had to face the truth. Especially his parents. As they entered the living room, Mrs. Elena froze. Leah, you came back. Hello, ma'am, Leah replied softly, her hands still tightly clasped in Arkin's. Mr. Marcus couldn't hold back. She has the nerve to come back here? She didn't come alone, Arkin said, voice steady. I brought her back, and we have something to tell you. Mr. Marcus crossed his arms, gaze sharp. She ruined your future, tarnished this family's name. No, Arkin stepped forward. Your expectations are what's ruining me. Leah is pregnant. The room fell silent. Mrs. Elena brought her hand to her mouth, eyes welling with tears. Is that true? Leah nodded, voice trembling. You think love is enough to erase bloodlines and legacy? She's a maid, Arkin. Do you know what the world will say about our family? She's the mother of my child, Arkin replied, enunciating every word. And the woman I love. Get out, both of you, Mr. Marcus hissed. We will, Arkin said calmly. I don't need your wealth, your name, or your company. I only need Leah and our child. Mrs. Elena stepped forward and gently held Leah's hand. You don't have to apologize. I support you both, even if your father won't. I will. Leah broke into tears, hugging her tightly. Arkin's eyes were filled with quiet determination. They had chosen each other. Even if they lost everything else, they still had one another. Leaving behind the mansion, a symbol of power and expectations, Leah and Arkin began a new journey. They rented a small house on the outskirts of the city, simple but warm. No more scolding voices, no more judgmental stares. Just the three of them, Leah, Arkin, and Mrs. Elena, living together in quiet love. Mrs. Elena used her savings to open a small bakery. She smiled whenever customers complimented her pastries, her eyes glowing with a happiness she rarely showed before. Arkin landed a job at an interior design firm. He worked hard, no longer the arrogant heir he once was, but a man learning how to be a husband, a father. Leah stayed home, resting and preparing for the baby. She often sat on the porch, gently caressing her belly, imagining the complete family they were building. Sometimes fear still crept in, fear that the past would return, that these good days were too fragile. But Arkin was always there. A look, a hand to hold, a soft kiss on her forehead, enough to calm her every worry. It wasn't a life of luxury, but it was real, a life where every laugh meant something, and where love, finally, no longer needed to hide. A few months later, Leah gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The whole family was overwhelmed with joy. After a period of rest, Leah and Arkin officially got married. Their little home echoed with laughter, sleepless nights, and warm lullabies, proof that sometimes love writes its own kind of happily ever after. The love between Leah and Arkin stood as proof that love isn't about wealth or status. It's about finding home in someone's heart. Despite the misunderstandings, the pain, and even the distance, if the love is strong enough, two people will always find their way back to each other.